So this is empty fullness. This is the formless form. This is nothing as everything. It's boundless energy, which also is contracted energy. Contracted energy is a boundless energy in a contracted form. So the whole thing is energetic as far as I'm concerned. It's all energy. When two people meet and talk together, there's an exchange of energy, which is beyond the words. And if there's a meeting in which there's a teacher and seekers, and that's another exchange of energy, in that case, the energy that's exchanged is the energy of intention, of agenda, of a movement, of an idea of getting somewhere, because the teacher is speaking to the people in a dualistic way and talking about them making a choice which could lead them to some sort of result. This is energetically what happens. And when people are listening and joining in that sort of meeting, then to a certain extent, they are the energy of intention is what affects them quite a lot, or can do. So they get embroiled in the whole idea and the whole sense of learning something, of understanding something, in order that they can reach somewhere. This is the energy of dualism. It's happening all in all sorts of ways, but in our subject, obviously, that can arise quite a lot, because there are many apparent teachers, and there are many also people who think that they can teach people non-duality. Joke. When there is a meeting which is seekers talking to no thing, to nothing which has any energy, no one, then somehow that whole question answer thing ceases to be like it was before, and the questions that are asked fall into a kind of void. There is no one that the questions are asked of. There's no one that would give a response that would feed the idea of intent or meaning or purpose. And in some way or other, that's a different sort of energy. And when people watch or are involved in that sort of meeting of the intention, the seeker, trying to find something out of nothing, then somewhere there's an influence there. That energetic sense can be felt. And a resonance can arise out of it. An ephemeral, sort of unknowing evidence, energy can arise, which can be sensed but not identified. So these meetings we have, these conversations we have together, which we're having today put together, are a sort of vehicle for something that's beyond the words. They're a vehicle for something energetic. The words are also valid in a way to some extent, in that the ideas and beliefs that the seeker might have encountering those words, that those ideas and beliefs may become dismantled, or they unravel in some way or other. But that's a fairly superficial thing that can happen. The main thing that happens, as I say, is energetic. And so we can speak together and share together, and somewhere there's something else, something energetic that's pointing to another possibility. Thank
you. Okay, so Bart, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, hi, is my volume okay?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's super.
Yeah, hi, Tony.
Hi.
I didn't really know you too much. I saw you on an interview, and I watched a couple of interviews, and something very unexpected happened that I can't explain. And I just, I don't know how to say it, but I got it, or something was gotten.
Yeah, something was touched.
Yeah. And it was just, I totally can relate now, understand that there's no way to get this. There's no way, because there's no way to where you already are standing. There's no
Because
path.
because there's no one.
Right. Okay. Yes. So, but my question is this. I've heard you say that there's no purpose or no point or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how you said it, to this energy. But then how do you explain love and beauty and the things that, all human beings everywhere seem to strive for? Doesn't that seems to be something that's arising out of this everything that apparently, has some kind of direction to it or something? It seems to be more than just some random thing.
So the direction that the separate individual has in what they call love is a direction to satisfy a need. So
Yes.
in the separate individual experience, the dualistic experience, love is not experienced, love is not known. It's called love, but it's actually, it's a need. It's a need to be loved and a need to love, or what people would call love. It's a need to communicate and to be communicated with. It's a need for someone to want you and you want them. So it's not unconditional love. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not even love. And there is a direction in it, and it has an aim. It's as I've described, and it has a purpose and a meaning, because it arises for the individual only in what seems to be apparent time. Of course, there is no such thing as time. Time is not real. That's why, because there is no time, there can't be a purpose or meaning, because those two things need time for them to be realized. So there can't be meaning or purpose in this, because there is no time. But as far as the individual experience of what is called love, what people call love, and you may be calling love, is actually a need, which needs some sort of satisfaction.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of love in a larger context, and not so much individual love, but just...
Well, unconditional love is so large, it's immeasurable, because I use the word unconditional love in the same way as I use nothing and everything, the beloved, the boundless. For me, unconditional love is the same term as the boundless. Non-duality is unconditional love, but it's boundless.
Okay, well, couldn't you say then that is some point or purpose?
No, not at all. Of course, unconditional love is utterly pointless. That's its beauty. The beauty of unconditional love is it has no point. It's not trying to get anywhere. Already, it loves. It loves this. It is this in love. So it doesn't have to go anywhere, because everything is already complete in that love. Whereas the personal so-called love is not complete, it feels incomplete, and it makes demands and has conditions. Not really love, it's need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Wenzel, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. So my name is Nina. Hello, Tony. Hello, Claire. I'm really excited.
Oh,
I'm not used to Zoom meetings, so
that's okay. Just say what you want to say. Don't worry about it being Zoom or anything else. It's fine. It's very simple and natural.
Okay. This morning I was sitting in my bed and reading one of your books, and suddenly I understood that I can nothing to do to wake up. All my efforts like meditating, being in the here and now, try to be conscious, just try to be, I understood that they are completely futile. And it's really frustrating. But on the other hand, it's a kind of freedom. It takes a huge weight off my shoulders that it is not my fault or inability or less of wrong practice. And so my question is, do I have just to live with everything coming up in my life and maybe it happens or not? Is it all?
You don't live a life. There is no one. That's why the whole idea of effort and meditation or whatever you might do is completely futile, because there is no one that can choose to do that. If meditation happens, it's just happening. There isn't anybody choosing to do it or anybody choosing not to do it. So that renders the whole seeking effort completely and utterly futile, because the seeking effort is directed in a dualistic subject-object world, which most individuals live in, and it's a world that's illusory. That's why all the effort that the individual makes to try and find an object called awakening or love is utterly and completely futile. So there's nothing there in there that I'm speaking to that can choose or not choose to live life. I'm speaking to life. I'm speaking to energy, which simply is happening out of nothing. And there is nothing that can choose to make it go one way or another. It just is what it is.
So it's just pure life, and everything which is coming up happens.
Absolutely. All there is
maybe
nothing.
It happens that it falls away and I can live, not I, my true nature. Did I understand?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Of course,
Maybe not.
when it apparently falls away, it will be recognized that there was nothing there to fall away. Because what fell away was the illusion that you are real. You aren't real. You are just an appearance of nothing. You are
So
just
personally, I can't do anything, just...
No, it's not that you can't do anything. It's just worse than that. There is no you. There isn't anyone. All there is what's happening. That nodding, that head nodding is happening. You aren't doing it. Isn't that amazing?
But so I'm not responsible.
Everybody watching this meeting is not watching it or listening to it. Watching and listening to it is what's happening. Sitting on a seat, whatever the people in this audience are doing, they aren't doing it. It's being done through them.
So if I try
not by anyone or anything, but it's just what's happening.
Okay.
It's very simple and very
natural. And if I try to watch the happenings, then it's again an attempt to reach a goal.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There aren't any goals. There aren't any enemies. All there is what seems to be happening. It's very simple.
Okay.
And in a way, very obvious.
Yeah.
Except to the seeker.
Okay.
Who's always on the move, always trying to make something happen.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got Stephen Park now. Stephen, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, Tony. It's so nice to see you.
Hiya.
Could you talk about what sentience is?
Sanction?
Like a sentient being? Like what? Could you talk a little bit about what's sentient?
The ordinary, but why call them sentient? Why not just call them people? You're talking about people.
You have like Google engineers claiming that their AI is sentient. What is sentience?
I'm sorry, I'm completely lost now. I'd rather talk in a natural way about ordinary things
Oh.
rather than what some scientist somewhere is dreaming up.
Like, what is the knower, the one who knows that I'm having this experience?
That is the individual experience. The individual experience is that you are a someone, and you are real, and what is happening is known by you. This is the dualistic reality. There isn't anybody that knows anything because there is nothing to know. But the illusion that the individual lives in is that they are living in a real world, they have real choice, and they have the choice to know what is happening. That's completely and utterly illusory. All there is what's happening, and there is nobody who's it's happening to. It's
Yes.
just happening.
But there is a knowing that's happening.
All the time you're an individual living in the illusion of a real world where you have real experience, and you think that the real experience is known by you. That's the illusion you live in. This knows nothing. There's nothing here that knows anything. This is just what's happening. There isn't anything that knows that's happening. There's just what's happening. You're talking to what's happening. And I'm
Yes.
talking also to what's happening, but what that thing there, that guy there, that individual there, thinks they know what's happening, and they think they're experiencing what's happening. That's the illusion.
Yeah, so
In other words, they're
What-
separate from what's happening.
yeah, so the one that, like, what is life, or what is
Life is just life energy. Life is energy apparently happening with no one in it.
right?
It's only apparently happening because, of course, it's nothing appearing to be alive.
But so I guess I'm asking, like, this nothing is awake. There's
No,
something
it's
that's
not. No, it's not awake or asleep. It is nothing, and it can't be comprehended. There's no way of comprehending nothing. But the aliveness that is happening right now is nothing in the form of aliveness that's happening right now, without any direction, meaning, or purpose.
so this aliveness is what I'm pointing to. What is this aliveness?
Well, I've just described it. It is no thing appearing to be alive. Happening. Don't try and work it out. You never will. It can't be known. It's unknown. It simply is.
Okay,
Have a think about it and come back.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Moritz Lembert. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello, Moritz.
Hello, Tony. Hey, just saying thank you. It's a very weird experience or non-experience. I think what I wanted to share is, previous to this, I always expected there would be a change in what's happening. Like the individual would suddenly turn and take a different path and
Yes, I always thought that when I was a seeker.
yeah, and now it's there are periods with the total absence of a feeling of ownership over what's happening. There is still thinking about going to get groceries. There's still working on the computer. There's still responding and talking, and it's everything is still the same and not. Yeah, I just have to smile when I listen to you. So thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
Thank you.
very interesting.
Tony, there's a question that somebody wants me to read out,
Right.
which is, Tony, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think there was ever a time in human history when the separate self was not predominant? If so, why or what made that develop? Also, from the reading, my understanding is that there is an unrecognized longing to reunite with oneness. If true, why is there so much human behavior that focuses on distinguishing one from another? For example, authoritarian-like behavior, bit of an essay really, sorry, asserting one's opinions, a drive to stand out. Thank you very much. I'm new to this topic and feel a lot of enthusiasm for it.
Oh, sweet. So I think I don't know whether I can remember all that, but to start with, there is no history. There is no past. There is no future. So the idea of going back to a time when there was or wasn't this individual influence is part of the dream. It's illusory. There never was a time. There isn't a time because there's no history. But in the story, in the apparent story of the world was just naturally full of animals and grass and trees and so on, and there wasn't any sense of individuality. But when in the story, which isn't real, by the way, when human beings arrived or seemed to arise in the world, then very early after they'd arisen, their brain instigated a sense of individuality. That's when dualism really began, or apparent dualism really began. Of course it didn't, because there is no history. I'm telling you a fairy story. I am telling you a fairy story. You'll still be convinced that I'm talking about something real, but I'm not. I'm talking about a fairy story. And in the apparent world, which is a fairy story, there were animals and rocks and all sorts of funny things. And then apparently in the fairy story, individuals arrived and then a contracted energy seemed to arise in them, which was there before, but nevertheless contracted energy arises in the tiny child, and there's a sense of self-awareness that arises. Self-awareness suddenly happens in the apparent world, which is a fairy story. And then thereafter, in the fairy story, individuals grew and multiplied and had a sense of self-awareness, self-consciousness, and also were very emphatically very separate. They were living in their own experience of being separate from the whole in the fairy story. And that's where we've reached today, a world full of individuals who live in dualism. What you're seeing in the apparent world, which is still a fairy story because it's not real, is the apparent effect of that dualism. War, good, bad. My God's better than yours. Da 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 da. Now I'm not sure that I can remember the rest of your question. But,
Do you want me to read? Do you want me to read it again?
not all of it. You can. Well, all right.
No, I'll try and get to the bit that. Okay, my understanding from reading is that there is an unrecognized longing to reunite with oneness.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all right. Don't mind. So in that separation, in that feeling of separation, there's dissatisfaction. And there's a sense that there's something else, there's another possibility. And so what arises with the individual, not with animals, because animals don't feel separate, but to be simple about it, neither does grass. But individuals feel this sense of separation. This is a story, by the way, and thereafter seek an answer to their sense of dissatisfaction. So they seek through religion, psychotherapy, whatever you like. They also seek through trying to attain great wealth or use drugs or become professional victims or whatever. They seek for some other deeper satisfaction. And of course, they can't find it. Now, listen very carefully to this part of the fairy story. And that is that the reason they can't find what they really long for is because they objectify it. They live in a dualistic world, one and another. Therefore, they experience a subject-object experience about everything. And so they objectify what they long for. They objectify awakening, enlightenment, or whatever you like to call it, oneness. They make it an object that they, through some effort or another, can attain and own. And that's why the whole effort of seeking is utterly futile, because really what they long for is unknowable and unownable. You can't, it has nothing to do with anybody. What we are talking about here has nothing to do with you. Just remember that, you guys watching. This has got nothing to do with you, how you are, what you're like, what you're doing, where you're going, what you've been through. It has nothing to do with that. It is simply the dissolution of the sense that there is anyone or anything apart from nothing being everything. And that awakening to that, if and when it happens, realize when that awakening to the realization that there is only this, when it's realized, it suddenly recognized that's all there was anyway, and there was nothing ever to find. And that this got nothing to do with anyone or anything that's happening.
Okay. So Robin, would you like to unmute yourself? Ask your question.
Hello, Tony.
Hello. Hello, Robin.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Oh,
Just so brilliant. And I have been listening to the things that you've been saying on YouTube and in videos, and it is the clearest, cleanest, most pure message I have ever heard in my life.
oh, thank you.
Tony the Terminator, I love you. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sweet. Lovely.
And Kate. Would you like to unmute yourself, Kate?
Hello, Kate. I
Kate.
don't think you've unmuted yourself. Hello, Kate. I can see you. Hello.
I think you might have gone, Kate. I'll remove the spotlight. We can come back. Oh, come back to you if you want to.
Okay.
Vala.
Hi, Tony.
Hiya.
Hi. I was wondering, would you say that when the apparent illusory self falls away, that life is in a lot of ways, or the experience of life is in a lot of ways similar to as it was before it fell away?
Absolutely not.
No.
There is no experience.
Okay.
When the whole illusion of you falls away, because you are the experiencer, there is
Yeah.
there's nothing here that experiences anything. There's only what's happening. There's nothing that knows what's happening or doesn't know what's happening. It just is what's happening. So there's no experience, and nothing changes in that sense. But the sense of there being something else to look for, of course, collapses.
I see. It's interesting because I used to watch your videos, like I've been watching them for a few years now on YouTube, and like I think initially when I would hear the message, and maybe it was because I was trying to understand it, even though you were saying don't try to understand this message like on a mental level, it would like create like this constriction within my body and just this tightness, and it was so uncomfortable, but something keeps me coming back. And yesterday I was watching one of your videos, and I don't know, it wasn't even like a conscious thought, but I was like, I just want to go just to go. So I just want to thank you so much, just to go, just to, kind of experience this. And I am cognizant of like I do feel the energy, and I do feel the, like there's a resonance there. And I just want to thank you so much. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I ought to say, really, if anybody else is listening, this is not something that you can feel. I understand what our friend is saying, but this is not something that you will feel. It just is.
Kate, we've got you again. Should we try another time?
Hello,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Ah, great. So nice to see you, Tony. And yeah, I'm really happy to have this chance to talk to you.
Okay.
Because I've been watching your video on the internet. And my question is, what do you mean when you are saying compassion destroys illusion?
Compassion destroys illusion.
Or the only compassion there is that compassion which destroys the illusion of separation and leaves only freedom. But a lot of people mistake, I think, in the dualistic world, compassion is helping old people over the road or being kind or apparently being loving and forgiving, all of those qualities, which as far as I'm concerned, have nothing to do with compassion. They're mainly conditioned responses in order to feel pleasure. We in the dualistic world, we are kind to other people, and sometimes that comes out of absolutely nothing, but often it comes out of a need to feel good about ourselves. So people are doing all sorts of things in order that they can feel, without necessarily consciously recognizing, the need to feel good about themselves, and which has nothing to do with compassion.
So that sounds like sympathy.
Sounds like,
Sympathy.
Sympathy.
yeah, sympathy is another thing that is in the dualistic world, because for sympathy to work, there needs to be somebody else to be sympathetic about. It's dualistic.
So can you explain more about the compassion you meant in the sentence?
Well, compassion, you're seeing compassion in action, although there is no action. Compassion comes out of nothing. It exposes the whole futility of seeking and tries, well, it doesn't try, but somehow illuminates the whole human problem, difficulty, and leaves the individual who's listening possibly with nothing at all to get hold of. This is compassion at work. It leaves nothing for the individual. Compassion is the end of hope. It leaves
The
no hope.
end
There's
of
nothing to
hope.
hope for.
Thank you, Tony.
It's surprising.
Okay, Tony, we've got a couple of questions now that have been asked to ask. One thing I would say, if there's somebody who's written a question in Spanish and someone else has very kindly tried to translate it, so I just ask people if they have got a question that's not in English, could they possibly translate it before they write it in the chat box? Because I'm afraid I can't speak or translate Spanish. Anyway, so we've got George, who's asked this question. How would you explain how from apparently different subjective points of view, there are different apparent experiences? One apparent person sees the sunrise differently from another apparent person. I assume this is different from solipsism. How would you explain different
Yeah,
points of view?
solipsism is something to do with an idea that everything comes from you or revolves around you. That's not what we're talking about at all. But the majority of individuals in the world live their own reality or experience their own reality. It's a separate reality and it's an artificial reality, but they think it is real. And so one person's sunset will be different to another person's sunset because they are experiencing those things within themselves as something that is happening to them as an experience. It's an individual happening, and it makes everything that seems to be happening different because it is individualized. That's why every reality that arises for the individual in the world seems to be different. it doesn't matter because everything has no meaning or purpose anyway. So the fact that it seems to be different is completely and utterly irrelevant. Sorry about that.
Okay, so there's
I'm not really sorry about it at all, actually, because that is the reality. The reality is all there is nothing apparently happening.
okay, so this is the question that's translated from Spanish, so we hope it's correct. Do you see a tree or a table or anything the same way you did before the collapse? Solid or empty?
Oh, absolutely not. When I was an individual, I saw a tree as an object that was happening to me over there. It was over there, the tree was over there, it was something that was happening that I was owning as my experience of a tree. When the individual which wanted to own and possess everything suddenly collapsed, there isn't anything that sees a tree, there's just a tree. There isn't anything that is anything. There isn't anything that is, because there isn't anything left. All that's left is nothing apparently happening. And what can apparently happen is tree, cars, sunlight, ham sandwiches, whatever else is what's happening. And it's not happening to anyone, it's just happening. Well, all the people that are sitting there right now could have a different experience. I don't know how many people there are in the meeting, but let's say 100, 150 experiences of sitting on a seat. Each one is uniquely that person's experience and they own it. When suddenly the whole illusion of the me falls away, all there is apparently sitting on a seat is happening. It's a no thing arising in the form of sitting on a seat. So right next to you sitting on a seat, there is just sitting on a seat. It's as simple and ordinary and obvious as that.
Okay, Aniko, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, hi Tony.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Mm.
Yes, sorry, my English is not very good. And actually, you said at the beginning that everything is just about changing energies. And
Changing energy, I don't think I said that at all.
oh,
I didn't hear it. This is not about changing energy. It is about the dissolution of the idea or the sense that there's an individual who is having experiences. It's the end of separation. It's not changing anything from one thing to another.
Yeah. So there is no person, but there is energies changes, like exchanges, like everything is energies. When you say nothing, then you mean energies. What's appearing is anything else. Is appearing is everything.
Nothing is everything. No, it's not appearing as everything. Nothing is everything.
Yes, and when you say nothing, do you mean energy or not?
No, it's impossible to answer that question. Nobody can know what nothing means.
Not even you?
No, I'm not. Oh, I'm not even me. Who do you think I am? I'm nothing. I am nothing, but I can't tell you what nothing is. And you can't tell me, and no one ever can. It's incomprehensible.
So I won't understand this until...
No, this is not about understanding anything.
Oh.
The only thing you need to understand is that there's nothing to understand. Understand that there is nothing to understand.
Yeah. Okay. I just don't know what I...
No, you wouldn't. You must be a bit lost at the moment. But
Yeah.
come back. Come back.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you. And I just want to remind anybody that you can telephone me. If you look on contact on our website, The Open Secret, you will find that you can ring me in the weekday mornings. I don't answer emails, but you can phone me weekday morning. And you don't have to make an appointment, just ring.
Okay, we've now got Simon. Would you like to unmute yourself, Simon? There we
Hello,
are.
Simon.
Hello, Tony.
Hiya.
Tony, I've got one question to you. I studied David Bohm for quite a
Sorry,
while.
say that again.
I studied David Bohm for quite a while.
Oh, studied David. Oh,
Yes. And he had a video on YouTube. I think this video is still available. The video is about connection between thought and feeling. And he was basically saying that if I deal with a difficult emotion, he advised people to look for words and see how these words affect my body. And then I did it a few times. And I think one time there was a kind of a breakthrough. And I could clearly see that thought accepts itself as true. And then from this, the whole I arises and all the rest of it. But then I would like to know, why was it visible to me for
because it
probably
was
half an hour or so?
Because it was an experience, and his teaching is based on the idea, the false idea, that there is such a thing as free will and choice. Because he's asking you to do something, to choose to do something, and there is no one to choose to do anything, and there isn't anything to do anyway. It's just another process idea, which sounds attractive and makes people feel good for a while. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about at all.
Mm. Yeah, okay then, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a question here. Isn't it dualistic to say this is dualistic?
Yeah, but there isn't anybody that says it's dualistic. All that happens is saying, or the statement, this is dualistic. Oh.
And there's another question. If someone is not able to understand the English language, would nevertheless he or she be touched by this message when talking
Absolutely.
with you?
She can be or not. Absolutely, because as I've said before, what we're talking about here is a vehicle for something energetic. And that's really what happens more than anything else. And the words and the ideas that come out are to some extent fairly superficial.
Okay, now there's another question here, which is sort of, there's two people have asked the same sort of thing, so I'm going to put them together. Is it normal to be confused about being nothing and to feel a kind of fear and sadness about this?
Totally.
There is this huge sense of self. Sometimes I desperately want this me to disappear. I'm really tired of feeling separate and feeling not good enough. It's the most exhausting thing in the world. Is there something you can tell me about this?
Yeah, you're not good enough. That's what I'm telling you. You never will be, because what this is and what unconditional love is about is nothing to do with the you that's not good enough or is good enough. It's just, it hasn't got anything to do with standards of goodness or badness. It is simply beyond those concepts altogether. It is about something totally simple and natural and obvious. All there is nothing apparently happening. This is nothing apparently happening. Being good enough or not being good enough is completely and utterly irrelevant. And it's just another way of torturing yourself in order to maintain survival and have an experience of torturing yourself about not being good enough. It's another indulgence. But there's nothing you can do about it. It's what's apparently happening.
And there's another one. If all this is happening out of nothing, where comes the systemic behavior?
Out of nothing. The systemic behavior is nothing arising as this. Everything that arises is nothing arising as that. And it has no meaning or purpose of any kind. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's basically the tenor of the question.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, okay, Inez, would you like to ask your question, Inez? You need to unmute yourself, Inez.
Now, can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
we
can.
Okay, great. Hi, Tony. Thank you for holding this
Nothing.
meeting.
For nothing.
Thank you for nothing. And I understand there's nothing, nobody's here, and there's no free will and no choice. I understand that. And however, what about the desire to improve one's situation?
That's
What
to
about,
do with choice.
yeah,
You've just said you understand there's no choice, but what about improving one? You know, you're saying one thing and then contradicting it by saying
yes,
something else. There is no choice. All there is sitting on a chair asking a question. You're not doing it. It's what's happening.
yeah.
There's no way to go. There's nothing better. There's nothing worse. All there is what is.
I get that, Tony, and I get that when life is, let's say when life is kind of normal and things are
No.
going kind of smooth,
No.
but
Sorry,
no?
I'm sorry you're not hearing this. This has
Mhm.
got nothing to do with somebody who's living a normal life and everything's going all right. It's got nothing to do with anyone. There isn't anyone. All there is what's happening.
Mhm.
You're going back into some idea of, well, if I feel good, it's okay, but if I don't, it isn't.
Yeah,
That's a personal feeling, and it's all part of the dualistic illusion. There isn't
yeah.
anyone. All there is, listen carefully, all there is nothing apparently happening.
Mhm. Okay, if I may add, Tony, but what about people who are in real harm? Let's say, let's go back, well, we can't go back, but let's say people in the Holocaust or victims of war,
Then that's what's happening.
that's what's happening. And there's no choice, and that's and harm will be done, and they cannot, you cannot
Apparently.
run away from harm because that's
Well,
what's
they
happening.
can and they can't, but it's not them running away. Running away can happen or not.
Mhm.
All there is what's happening. There is no one who can choose to run away, and there is no one who can choose to stay.
Okay, yes, of course. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, and Tej.
Hiya, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
Good. It's so good to see you again. I just wanted to say hi and say this is the greatest message ever.
Oh, and the most awful message ever.
And the most awful. I totally agree with you. You know,
Thank you.
sometimes, fear comes up, and I really sometimes don't understand what's going on, but something is going on. So
Life.
just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Life
Thank
is
you.
going on for
Sit.
no one. Life is
Yeah.
going on for no one.
Correct. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you. I might call you if
Will
it's okay.
do. Do.
Thank you.
Bart, would you like to ask your question?
Hello.
You need to
Hello.
unmute. Here he is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. In some of your talks, Tony, you make a distinction between the your awakening to this everything and nothing, and then your liberation. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
No. There wasn't an awakening and there wasn't a liberation. Apparently, the whole illusion of being an individual was no more. And when it was no more, it was recognized by no one. I'm sorry about that, but there never was an individual. If you want to call that an awakening, you can. But as far as I understand, the idea that it was an awakening and then followed by a liberation is not how.
Well, you use the word liberation.
Yeah, I sometimes do. I sometimes use the word awakening or enlightenment. None of those words are actually relevant. None of those words are appropriate because there is no word that is appropriate for that which already is.
Right. Well, in the context of this talk that I heard, it seemed as if you were saying that you were kind of describing what happened.
Well, if you're taking something which was an old conversation out of context, then we can't talk about this.
Okay.
What's the point of your question?
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand what is liberation and how is it different?
It's impossible to understand what liberation is because liberation is the end of that which you could understand.
Okay. So what do you mean when you use the word liberation?
I don't know. I don't know because it can't be understood. I've already told you that. Enlightenment, awakening, liberation are words which can only get near to some sense of this. They aren't appropriate.
Right.
There's no such thing as liberation, awakening, or enlightenment. But in the conversation, those words might be used. They're inappropriate.
Right.
All words
Okay.
are.
It just sounded like there was a distinction between what is liberation and what was the awakening. Like there was something different.
When there's an individual who actually experiences life in a very definite way and feels that it is real, and then suddenly that illusion falls away, obviously there's an apparent distinction. Oh, there never was anybody, and there never was an experience. So in that way, you could say there's a distinction between the two. But the distinction that afterwards arises is not owned or seen by anyone because there isn't anyone left. All there is no thing apparently.
Okay, thank you.
And I've got some more written questions. So the first one is, are we all in Plato's cave?
Are we all
in Plato's cave?
Oh, I've no idea what Plato's cave is.
Okay, we'll move on. Is wanting the illusory self to collapse, so to speak, perpetuating the illusion of the illusory self?
Totally and absolutely. People will want to survive as individuals, so they go on seeking, because seeking is the most effective way to avoid not being.
Can Tony say something about why the individual cannot ever see the illusion? Why I think
because the individual lives in is dualism, so the illusion of dualism can't see that it's an illusion, because that's all it can experience. All it can experience is a dualistic experience of life. So they can't see that that's illusory, because that's the only way it exists or survives.
David, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hello, David.
You need to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thanks. Lovely to see you, Tony. Absolutely lovely to see you. I'm just going to be a wee bit picky, and you'll probably just kick it right out the park. But the notion of seeking being the way avoiding liberation, or whatever you want to call it, does that not point to just proof of cause and effect?
Well, yeah, in the dualistic world, of course it is. Of course, there isn't anybody chooses to seek in order not to survive. There just is that energy, the energy of the attraction of seeking, because it's something that I, who believes I am a real person, can do. So it goes on reinforcing the sense that you are really an individual. And that's what the individual wants to go on doing, proving that they are real.
But it's either way, it doesn't really matter, I presume. I mean,
Nothing, but hold on, nothing matters. There's nothing happening.
But the implication is that if you stop seeking, somehow it's going to be the better.
No, you can't stop seeking. You can't stop seeking or start seeking, because there is no one. There is no free will or choice. All there is what's apparently happening, including the effort of seeking in order to survive.
But you see what I mean about, it sounds like you're taking a kind of negative stance towards seeking, because it's...
not negative, illuminating. This is an illumination. It's not trying to destroy anything. It's simply illuminating the whole way in which the individual goes on remaining in dualism. There's nothing negative. There's nothing wrong with seeking. There's nothing wrong with anything. All there is what's happening. It's only in the dualistic world that there seems to be a right and a wrong. Therefore, somebody in dualism would presume that Tony Parsons is being negative, because that makes him wrong. In fact, it's not being negative, it's simply illuminating the situation.
Okay, good. Thanks, Tony. Thank you.
Jason, we better ask you because you're in a car.
Oh, Jason.
Hi, Tony. I don't really know why I even want to talk to you, but I do.
No, I don't know why you want to talk to me. I think
don't
it's
know
amazing.
either.
I think it's amazing that people actually want to talk to me at all. I think it's incredible. There's nothing here for anyone, and yet people go on talking to me.
Yeah, there's kind of a fear too.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. But you know that you're gonna get me. It's like, well, I don't know. It's the meing and being seems to keep going here. Like there's the occasional glimpse of the self dropping away or whatever. And in those moments, there never was anybody. You know, there never was a self. There never was a Jason. And then somehow, whatever, the Jason comes back, and there's like, I can't even imagine what it's like to not be here, because I've always been here.
How could you? How could you imagine what it's like to not be you?
Exactly. And when there's nobody here, it's so clear there's nobody here. I don't know. It's just crazy, this back and forth thing. And I don't know. I guess I don't know.
That's what can apparently happen to quite a lot of people. I talk to all sorts of people, and quite a lot of people experience this in out, me, meing and being. Me, being, me, being, me, being, and then suddenly meaning doesn't come back.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. When there is a me here, like now, it's like, oh, it's kind of scary, la la la. Even though I know it's not bad, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's crazy. Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Gabor, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hello. Hi, Tony.
Hiya.
I just wanted to say actually hello to you.
Okay, hello.
It's good to be here on this meeting.
Okay, good. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Yosef, would you like to unmute yourself? For some reason I can't link you by... Yosef, are you there?
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can.
I just want to say thank you, and I'm grateful to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Okay, sweetie. Thank you.
Okay. This is a straight question now, which has been asked several times, and I'm not sure about one of the words, which is slightly putting me off asking it. So I'm just going to give it a go. If you know that everything is being, and everything is essity, which someone is telling me is isness, or essence, but essity doesn't occur in you, do you, like Tony walking, you free yourself from reincarnating just by knowing that everything is essity?
I don't know anything. There is no knower here. So there isn't something that knows whatever you've just described, but there is only oneness. There aren't two. There isn't something that knows there aren't. If there was something that knew there was not two, there'd be two. The knower and the idea that there is only oneness. There is no one here that knows anything. All there is here is what's apparently happening. But I'm also speaking to somebody who may believe that something that's happening is happening to them, but actually all they are is what's happening. Everybody that's listening to this program is only what's happening. There isn't anyone.
And there's another question here. Is awareness nothing, or is it an appearance?
Awareness is nothing in the form of awareness. Everything that arises, nothing. Let's remember that nothing is everything. It doesn't become everything. It simply is everything. So whatever you're looking at the moment is nothing appearing in that form. And if there is an awareness that's arising in there, inside the body, then that's nothing arising as an apparent awareness inside the apparent body. It's not right, it's not wrong. It simply is what is.
Okay, so we've now got Rima.
Rima. Hello.
Tony, thank you
Hello.
again. Thank you again. It was lovely to connect with you and everyone in Munich. You just said that before and after, tree still exists, but to no one, right? The tree is still there, but just to no one. With similar analogy, Tony is still there, but to no one.
But apparently only there. It's only an appearance.
Apparent is the
So
word.
Tony is an appearance of nothing.
Okay, so all the appearances before or after are still there, just for no one.
Except that for the individual, the appearance of a tree makes the tree a real object that's out there and separate. And there is no one, there is simply tree, apparently.
Okay. And that's the same for yourself too. Tony did not.
I'm not a self, there is no one. You're speaking to no one, for whom the tree is just tree.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
you. We've got Sahara.
Hello.
Hiya. Hiya.
Hi,
Yes,
Sahara.
I'm here. Hi, sweetie.
Hiya.
A little confused about what you just said to this fellow about the seeker, that the process of seeking is how the individual avoids
Awakening.
Yes. Okay.
There is no such thing as awakening. But
No, but yes, so we understand. But if there is no one present with any free will or choice, then that seeking is just something that's happening in that character.
Of course, seeking is just something that's happening. It's nothing arising. It's the energy of seeking. That's all there is to it.
And then can you understand what I'm asking without me putting
No.
it into words?
No, I can't.
Okay, so there was a statement that the seeking energy is what is the way that the character avoids what will use
Yeah,
the
I can
term
understand that, yeah.
awakening.
But there isn't
Okay.
anybody that's doing that. The seeker doesn't purposely seek in order to survive. It is simply energy happening in that form. So when the energy of seeking arises, then the apparent seeker will go on necessarily investing in that idea of seeking until it doesn't anymore.
The apparent individual, but the apparent individual is not actually doing anything
No, it's
because
apparent. That's why it's apparent. It's an appearance of nothing. There isn't any free will or choice. There's only an apparent individual investing in the idea of seeking. But there isn't anyone doing that. It's what's happening.
Thank you, Tony. Thank
Thank you.
Stephen. Like to
Hello
unmute
again.
yourself.
Hi,
Does
Stephen.
Hi. Does the apparent Tony and the apparent story follow the news, or is there no point?
No, the apparent Tony follows the apparent news because it's a lovely story. Sometimes it's an interesting story.
Does apparent Tony get upset at news of war and global warming and things like that?
No, not in that way. But Tony Parsons or whoever the energy of watching the news can disagree or agree with what's happening.
But the deeper understanding recognizes that nothing's happening, and so it's not affected by the news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, another written question. For the apparent person, a severe illness happens to that brings decades of physical pain, nothing apart from apparent waiting for the life and pain to end is the only option, as no choices can be made, and it just wants to experience itself. So from a human perspective, it seems quite unjust, for life happens to arise for the apparent you.
So life is not just. Life is something that's just happening. And if what you describe is happening, and that's what is apparently there, and it has no meaning or purpose of any kind, and there's nothing that can be done about it one way or the other.
Okay, and there's one final one. Is energy work a joke? I mean, people who claim to be energy healers, can that really work on the body?
Oh, it can and it can't. It doesn't matter much. There isn't anybody that's doing it. And apparent healing can happen and it may not. There isn't the right or wrong. There's only what's apparently happening. But there isn't anybody who can choose to heal, and there isn't anybody that can choose to be healed. All there is nothing apparently happening.
Right, so now we've got Kathy. Kathy, you want to unmute
Yes.
yourself?
Yes. Hi,
Hello,
Tony.
Kathy. Hi, yeah.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay.
But in this apparent fairy tale, this unreality,
Well, that's what happens. Yeah.
yeah, I just was, the 4 rainbows. When the queen died.
You need to explain.
Oh, well.
Sorry, I'm not with you.
Okay, when Queen Elizabeth died last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. At the time of the death or shortly thereafter, there was a rainbow over Balmoral, a double over Buckingham, one over Windsor Castle, and another one in Ontario, a white one. It just like made the fairy tale somehow. I don't know. I just like, I know you're in London, right? Yeah.
Well, it makes it more dramatic. Incidentally, there isn't a queen that dies. Nobody dies. There, no one dies. No one is
Yeah.
born and no one dies. But in the story, an apparent queen died, and there were 4 or 5 rainbows.
Mind blowing. It was
Um,
mind blowing.
it can be for some people, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
who are looking for signs of meaning.
I wish I could come to see you in London.
Well, why not? Well, just get on a plane and come to Pax Lodge.
I would love to. There's just, a whole bunch of other stuff that, maybe I'll tell you sometime on the telephone.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there's one more question, which is, who's making the story up?
Well, no one. No one makes the story up. There isn't a creator or a God that's making the story up. The story is nothing appearing to happen. That's all it is. It's nothing appearing to happen. There is no maker of the story. And the story isn't real. It's an appearance of nothing. And it has no meaning or purpose of any kind.
So someone says, if time does not exist, how do you explain the changing of the seasons?
I didn't say time doesn't exist at all. I said that time is an appearance like everything else. Everything that seems to arise or happen is an appearance of nothing. And it has no meaning or purpose of any kind.
Got a Jory, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. Hey, Tony.
Hi, fella.
Hi. Gosh, it's so beautiful to hear this message.
Oh.
So I just want to say thank you. And
Okay.
so I wanted you to just talk about the terribleness of this message, that it's the most beautiful message, but also the most terrible message, because when I think about that, it's only terrible to the me. And then that means the me is misunderstanding this message. So it's not, it just appears to be a terrible message. Is that right?
Absolutely. The me, it isn't that the me misunderstands this message, although it tries hard to misunderstand it. It is more that the me doesn't want to hear this message. Now, I've been speaking about this for over 25 years now to thousands and thousands of different people. A lot of those people will not hear this message, not through any choice, but because at that time they don't want to hear it. Energetically, they're closed to it, and it can't be heard or understood. Of course, nobody can understand it anyway. It's not about understanding anything, but in some way or other, as I said at the beginning, all of these conversations that are going on and with me apparently in the story have been going on for many years, although there aren't many years because there is no past, and energetically something is happening much more to do with this than any understanding or words that are used. But for the individual, for the me, this is a terrible message because it's the end of the illusion of there being a me. And the me wishes to survive and would like to find anything it could to disprove this message, religion, anything of that. It's trying hard to make this message wrong if it can, because it's frightened.
Or to understand it in some way that it's more digestible, maybe.
Yeah.
That's
Well, another futile activity.
Right. When I just over the period that I've heard this message, there's the appearance that I'm being rocked by the message, and the foundations are being rocked. But then I think, well, no, that's just life. That's just life. No, right?
Yeah.
That's just life.
Absolutely, man. No,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. Just life happening. Yeah,
Right.
including you feeling disturbed or whatever, or rocked. That's life happening.
Right, where I might have been like, oh, I'm hearing the message and the message is rocking me, and maybe I'll understand it at some point, and then I won't be rocked, and that's just fucking bullshit, right?
Absolutely, utterly.
All right. Thank you. You're beautiful.
Okay.
I love
Okay,
you.
sweetie. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Now we have Susie.
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 Hi, Tony.
Hiya.
Hiya. Just wanted to say hi to you and Claire and just say I love you very much and so grateful for this. Thank you so much.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And to number 74. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye.
That's it.
So we now have Robin. Again, would you like to ask your question, Robin?
Thank you. In the apparent story of me, the little me, the one who believes in duality, I studied many belief systems. I followed lots of different religions. I was definitely a pretty ardent seeker. And what I saw and what I realized was that every belief system, every religion, I would follow the trail of energy, and at the very center of every one of these was a void. I called it the void, but I think it's what you're talking about, the great mystery. And I felt like every time I got to that precipice, I was peeking into the void and there was nothing, and it was frightening, of course. But your message is so much clearer and so much more direct that I don't have to follow rituals and I don't have to do.
Well, you couldn't anyway, because there isn't anybody. Ha-ha! Gotcha.
Oh, Tony, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Stephen again.
Hi again.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, again, referring to the apparent Tony and the apparent Tony's apparent story. What compels this apparent Tony to keep holding these meetings?
Nothing at all. Tony doesn't keep these meetings. These meetings apparently happen. There isn't anybody doing them.
So the apparent Tony doesn't need to make an apparent living, doesn't need to make
Well, apparent living happens. Apparent income seems to happen.
Yay.
Is there?
It has to happen because because eating is quite important.
What's it quite important?
Eating.
Eating, yes, to the apparent story of the apparent Tony.
Yeah.
So there is some acknowledgement that this apparent Tony, this story of Tony requires
nothing is required. There is an apparent Tony who talks to people and eats pasta and drinks wine. But all of that is simply what's apparently happening.
So there's no effort on the apparent Tony's part.
There is no Tony Parsons to make an effort. There just is what's happening. And it's the same for everybody that's listening to this message or asking questions. It is what's happening. Nobody is doing it. Nobody is doing anything because there is nobody. There is only nothing apparently happening.
The apparent story
fundamental of that.
The story of the economy.
It's nothing apparently. Look, if you ask a question, just ask yourself, is it nothing apparently happening? Then maybe you won't have to bother to ask a question. Good.
I don't know what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, would you like to ask your question?
I just want to say hello and thank you so much.
Okay,
I
Nancy.
I love you, and this is a great message. Thank you so much.
Okay, sweetie, thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe that's a good time to end the whole thing.
Yep.
Sue, is that all right?
There's a couple. There's nobody else with a hand up. There's a couple of questions. If you want to, I'll have to take them. It's up to you.
Okay.
What, written ones? Yes.
Okay.
One is I think I can try and put them together.
Okay.
One is about, is it possible to surrender to the truth if there is no one there? And then there's also, why is it so hard for the individual to be individual? Because there's a sense that it's not real and at the same time very real at the same time.
Okay, so it's not possible to surrender because there is no one to surrender and there's nothing to surrender to. All there is nothing apparently happening. And I've forgotten what was.
The other question was about it's why is it so hard for the individual to be individual? Because there's a sense that it's not real.
Hard, it's what's happening. Nobody's doing it. Nobody is being an individual. Being an individual is apparently what's happening.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, Sue.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sue, for making this happen or helping to make it happen. Thank you. And thank you,
Tony.
everybody, Claire and I. It's wonderful when you ask questions.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Sue.
Love to
Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Tony, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Tony.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
Claire.
Bye, Claire. Bye, Tony.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, Tony and Claire. Lovely
Thank
to
you.
see
Bye.
you.
Bye.
See you.
TTFN.
Have a great
Yeah,
evening.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much.